Welcome back, dear listener, to another science story where we gently float between questions and wonder and let the universe tuck us in with its quiet truths. Tonight, you're not just listening. You're traveling not through space, but through possibility. A journey into the smallest spaces of existence, where particles shimmer with secrets, and connection means something deeper than closeness. This is the realm of quantum teleportation, a place where two particles, born together, remain forever linked, no matter how far apart they drift. You may have heard the word teleportation and imagined vanishing in one place, reappearing in another. But this isn't science fiction. It's not about bodies disappearing or beams of light carrying you across the stars. It's quieter than that, subtler, stranger. It's about how information, the soul of a thing, can move across distance without the thing itself ever traveling. It's about how two particles, bound by the laws of quantum physics, can share a whisper faster than anything should be able to whisper. It still obey the speed limits written into the fabric of space. In this story, you will lie back and drift gently into the softest corners of physics. No equations, calm, just curiosity, calm, and comfort. By the end, you might not fully understand quantum teleportation, but you'll feel its shape, its rhythm, its quiet song. So breathe slowly, let go, and step into the invisible thread that connects not just particles, but maybe, just maybe, everything. Asterisk, asterisk, you lie back, eyes closed, and let your mind drift like a leaf on still water. The room around you softens, fades. There is only breath, only stillness, and then a quiet ripple in the dark. You're no longer in your bed. You are floating weightless inside a sea too small for sight. A sea made not of waves or water, but of something finer. Space between atoms. The hush between what is and what might be. Asterisk here, in this silent sea, something is beginning. A pair of particles born together from the same burst of energy. They are not large or loud. They do not glow or spin in ways your eyes can see. But they are real, and they are bound as if by an invisible thread that hums quietly between them. You watch, gently, as they drift apart, not because of loss, not because something is broken, but because distance does not scare them. They are entangled up, word that sounds soft and warm, but carries with it the power to shake the very nature of what we call reality. Entanglement means that no matter how far one of these particles travels across a room, across a planet, across a galaxy, the other still knows. Atia knows when its partner is changed, knows when it's measured, touched, or shifted. This bond does not stretch like a rope. It does not fade like memory. It simply isn't touched by space or time. A promise written not in ink, but in the code of the universe itself. You pause here, in this moment, floating between two particles that are somehow still one. And you wonder, how can two things, separated by so much, still move as one? You are not alone in that wonder. Physicists have asked it for nearly 100 years. Einstein himself once called it spooky action at a distance. Troubled him this idea that something here could change something there. Instantly, without a signal, without a sound, it seems impossible. But in the quantum world, it's impossible is just another way of saying you do not yet understand. So you keep floating, watching, feeling the particles drift further now, carried east by chance, the other west by some cosmic breath. Still, they remain linked. Their spins, their states, They're quiet inner truths. These are no longer separate stories, but pages in the same book. Imagine you hold one of them, gently, like holding a feather made of light. You measure it just to know if it's spinning up or down, if it leans this way or that. In doing so, you do not just learn something, you decide something. And far, far away, the other particle untouched, Consim responds, instantly, as if your hands had brushed it too, not because a message traveled, not because anything flew between them, Kana, but because, in some deep way, there was never really any distance between them at all. You breathe deeply now. It's a lot to hold. But you do not need to grasp it all at once. Just know this, in the quantum sea, connection does not need closeness. And sometimes, things that seem separate are simply two faces of the same mystery. Not as a puzzle, but as a rhythm, like your own heartbeat, like the rise and fall of your chest as you drift toward sleep. And now, a question floats in like a gentle tide. If two particles can share a state, if they can mirror each other, no matter the space between them, could you send something through that connection? Could you send a message? Not a body, not an object, but an idea, a feeling, a state of being. You imagine it a whisper moving not through air or wires, but through entanglement itself. A form of teleportation that doesn't carry matter, but meaning. Your eyes soften, your body relaxes. You do not need to understand it completely, only to wonder. This, dear listener, is the first whisper of quantum teleportation. A phenomenon where information, the very identity of a particle, can be transferred across space. Not by motion, but by entangled fate. Not magic, not fantasy, but real, measured, tested, and yet still wrapped in mystery. As you float in this quiet sea, you begin to see how teleportation is not about vanishing or appearing. It is about remaking something elsewhere. Not carrying it, but recreating it, based on the information that once lived in another place. But there's a rule here. A limit. Even in the quantum world, you cannot just send information without a bridge. You need more than entanglement. You need to send something the old-fashioned way, a bit of classical information. A message with coordinates, a signal that says, "This is what I saw. This is what you must build." And that message must still travel through space at the speed of light. No faster, no cheating. That the particles may be bound by something deep, but even their story must wait for the final word. The entangled pair is like two dancers perfectly in step, but still waiting for the music to play. You drift deeper now, your breath steady, thoughts slow, like stars turning softly in the night sky. This journey is only beginning. You have touched the first thread felt, the bond between two distant hearts. But there is more to uncover, more questions that shimmer just beneath the surface. How does the universe allow such bonds to exist? What are the rules of this strange entanglement? And if reality itself is built from uncertainty, what does it mean to know anything at all? You begin to drift toward that question, toward the edges of knowing, where certainty fades and possibility begins, and in that soft fog, the next chapter awaits. Asterisk, asterisk, you float deeper now beneath the soft surface of understanding into a space where certainty blurs. The particles you watched before still spin somewhere far away, but tonight, you turn your attention to something quieter, the nature of knowing itself. There is a place, in the heart of physics, where measurement becomes mystery, where trying to see clearly only makes the picture fuzzier, where precision and presence cannot exist in the same breath. You are now in that place. This is where the uncertainty principle lives. You don't need a chalkboard or equations. You don't need to solve anything. Listen. Imagine you are in a dark forest. You hear something move a bird? Perhaps shine your flashlight to see it better. But as soon as the light touches it, the bird flutters away. The very act of looking has changed what you hoped to observe. This is how the quantum world behaves. In this forest of particles, the act of watching is not passive. It is participation. A particle does not have a fixed position and momentum waiting to be found. It has possibilities. It has a cloud of maybes. And when you try to catch it, try to define its shifts, you cannot know both where it is and how fast it's moving with perfect accuracy. The more clearly you see one, the blurrier the other becomes. Heisenberg showed us this. Not as a flaw in our tools, but as a feature of reality. You breathe in. Let that idea settle. The universe, at its smallest scale, refuses to be pinned down. It asks you to choose what do you wish to know, position or momentum. One will come into focus. The other will fade. This isn't chaos. It's not randomness without rules. It's a kind of grace. A whisper that says, everything is in motion. Everything is becoming. You float alongside this thought, watching particles move like fireflies, glowing only when observed, and never in quite the same place twice. You begin to understand something strange and beautiful, that reality. Beneath the surface is not a solid structure, but a shifting pattern of likelihoods. The world is built from probabilities, not certainties, and yet, here you are, Ariel, breathing. Warm. How can something so stable emerge from something so uncertain? It is in the numbers, in the great averages, in the law of large things. When billions of particles move, their randomness smooths into patterns, like the rustle of many leaves, becoming a single wind, like the drip of rain forming a river dot. But beneath that river, the particles still hum their uncertain tune. You now imagine yourself as one of them, not watching, but being watched. Not solid, but flickering, a smear of possibility, collapsing into presence only when touched. It's not unsettling. It's freeing, because if even electrons are not fixed, maybe you don't have to be either. Maybe you are not defined by where you are or where you've been, but by what you might become. Maybe you, too, are allowed to change the moment someone truly sees you. You breathe out, slowly. This idea rocks you gently, like a boat on a quantum sea. You understand now why scientists speak of particles as wave functions, curves of potential. Until observed, they are not one thing or another. They are many things waiting, and once they are observed, their wave collapses, not like something broken, it's more like something choosing. This is the heart of quantum strangeness. You remember the particles from before, the ones that were entangled. You realize now that even before their bond, each was already a whisper of uncertainty. And when one is measured, it collapses, but not in isolation. The other collapses too, as if the universe says, this truth is shared. This collapse belongs to both. How can this be? You don't need the full answer. Just feel the poetry in it. That particles born together remain connected, not just through space, but through the uncertainty that wraps them both. They do not just respond to each other's state. They share the very act of becoming. You feel your body soften. This principle doesn't only belong in physics. It lives in you to make a choice, in every path you let go of when you walk another. You cannot know what would have happened if you'd turned left instead of right, spoken instead of stayed silent. But that doesn't make your choices less real. It makes them powerful. The universe is not a fixed map. It is a story unfolding. One where observation writes reality. So what do you choose to look at? What truth do you wish to collapse into existence? These are not questions with answers. They are questions that hold you as you fall asleep. You drift now among the possibilities, a world where nothing is certain and everything is possible, where particles flicker like dreams, and dreams behave like particles. You realize something subtle, that uncertainty isn't absence. It's presence in motion. It's the breath before the word, the silence before the note, and when you observe a particle. When you bring your focus to it, the universe folds in around that choice. It doesn't reveal itself all at once. It meets you where you look. You float in that thought, your mind soft, your breath slower. The universe, you realize, is not a static truth to be uncovered. It's a living question, shaped by the way we choose to wonder. And this is why teleportation must be built carefully, because before anything can be transferred, it must be observed. An observation in the quantum world always leaves fingerprints. To send a particle's identity elsewhere to recreate, it too must first collapse its wave. You must first know it, and in knowing it, if you change it, you begin to see how delicate the process is. Teleportation is not like stepping through a door. It is like translating a feeling into language, and then back again, hoping nothing is lost in the space between. You hold that space now. A bridge made not of beams, but of probabilities. A bridge you cannot walk, only imagine. You are ready for the next step in the journey. Ready to leave uncertainty not behind, but beside you, as a guide, as a gentle hand on your shoulder. Because to understand entanglement fully, you must first honor the uncertainty that makes it possible. You drift now toward that connection, to particles, to stories, linked not in space, but in possibility. Everywhere the pattern continues, and just as you begin to drift toward sleep, another question stirs. If everything is made of information, what holds the pattern together? What gives it direction? Keeps the entanglement from dissolving into silence? You are ready now to listen for that guiding force, to follow the thread deeper, not just through the body or the mind, but through the code that holds the universe together. Asterisk, asterisk, the rhythm continues soft and slow, like breath between the stars. You follow it not with your feet, but with something deeper, a gentle tide of curiosity, of quiet awe, pulling you into the mystery that now surrounds you. You are no longer in the forest of uncertainty. That place taught you to let go, to observe without grasping, and now, with open hands and wondering eyes, you step into the next clearing, a space, vast and still, where silence holds a song. There, suspended like two lanterns in the dark, you see them again, the entangled particles. They do not speak, they do not touch, and yet they move as if they are echoes of one another. One trembles, and the other quivers in reply. One turns, and the other responds with no delay, no signal, no waiting. It is as though space itself forgot to separate them. You stand in this quiet place, watching their motion. It is not chaotic, not random, coordinated like dancers who do not need music because they carry the rhythm in their bones. You wonder what kind of language this is. Not one made of words or sounds. Not one sent through wires or carried by air. It's something deeper, a correlation written into the fabric of who they are. Imagine this, a pair of twins, born not just from the same cell, but from the same moment, of creation so closely connected that they continue each other's sentences across continents, feel each other's emotions through the silence. Now imagine that instead of people, these twins are particles, tiny carriers of quantum information, linked not by memories, but by physics itself. This is entanglement, not magic, not imagination, but a real phenomenon observed, tested, and trusted by the most delicate instruments on Earth. It tells us something strange, that measurement changes everything. When you observe one entangled particle, its properties become clear: its spin, its polarization, its state, and instantly, without touching or calling, the other particle's state becomes determined to heaven, if it's across the galaxy. You pause to let that settle in your chest. This is not just poetic. This is how reality behaves when you look closely enough, and no one knows why. That's what makes it beautiful. Even the brightest minds don't fully understand it, not Einstein, not Bohr, not the equations etched into chalkboards across decades. The particles are connected, but not by a force, not by a wire, not by any signal that travels through time. They are one system, split across space. You breathe in this idea. It stirs something gentle in you, a memory of connection, of people you've loved from afar, of how your heart knows, sometimes, when someone you care about is hurting even without a word. Perhaps it's not the same, but perhaps, too, entanglement is nature's way of whispering that separation is not always real, that closeness exists beyond distance, that we, too, might be entangled in ways we've only begun to sense. You remember a moment long ago when you looked up at the stars and thought of someone, and somehow, in that silence, you knew they were thinking of you too. Could it be that some threads stretch farther than light can travel? Not in the language of science fiction, but in the deep code of reality itself. You watch the particles. Again, they are not spinning wildly. They are not moving quickly. They simply exist in balance, as if they carry each other's reflection, and neither can be seen clearly without the other. It's not communication in the usual sense. They do not send messages. They do not carry meaning, not directly. Instead, they are like mirrors, placed far apart, but still reflecting the same single light. And here is where the wonder deepens. Because of this dance, quantum teleportation becomes possible. Not teleportation of bodies or objects, but teleportation of states, the quantum blueprint of a thing, its identity without its matter. You think of music played across two pianos. One key pressed here, and far away, another responds. Not because a wire connects them, but because they are tuned to the same note, the same invisible harmony. Now imagine, instead of notes, it is information, a quantum state transferred, not carried, not sent, but reconstructed from afar. You will come to understand this more soon. But for now, it's enough to see how the silent dance makes it possible. You walk a little closer though. Space here is only symbolic. One of the particles trembles slightly, as if acknowledging your attention. You reach toward it gently, and imagine taking a measurement, with awareness. In that moment, its partner, far away, adjusts, matching your discovery without needing to be told. It feels like a miracle. But it is simply quantum law. You smile. The silence between them is not empty. It is full love, symmetry, of potential, of knowing without asking, and yet. This raises a question. If these particles are so deeply linked, why can't we use them to send messages instantly? Why can't we whisper across the cosmos faster than light? The answer, you find, is both humbling and poetic. While entanglement allows two particles to share a state, it does not allow one to choose the outcome. Measurement gives you information, but it also introduces randomness. You cannot control the result, you can only witness it. And so, although entanglement is instantaneous, the full process of transferring meaning still relies on classical communication, a light-speed messenger that must carry the final piece of the puzzle. It's like two dancers separated by a wall. They move in sync, their steps entangled. But if one wants to change the choreography, they must send a note over the wall. The harmony is beautiful, but it still waits for the signal. You lie back in thought. Even this limitation does not reduce the magic. It reminds you that in the quantum world, wonder and rule coexist. Possibility and boundary dance together. What you see is miraculous, but it also obeys laws. Quiet and exact. You think of scientists across decades, watching, measuring, doubting, believing. Entanglement was not easy to accept. It challenged the very logic of cause and effect. Asked reality to behave as if space and time were not always what they seem. But experiment after experiment whispered the same truth. The connection is real, and so we began to dream not of fiction, but of new technology. Of quantum computers that use entanglement to calculate with impossible speed, quantum networks, where information, encrypted and protected, travels without fear of interception, and one day, perhaps, of teleportation, not of people, but of the self beneath the self. A transmission not of bodies, but of identity. You return to the particles again. They are still moving, still mirroring, still telling the story of unity without proximity. You think of the universe, how vast it is, how silent, and yet, tucked inside that silence are connections so fine, they escape the senses. But they are there. You lie down now, letting your body float in the gentle darkness. You are held by something invisible, but undeniable. You think of lovers. Across oceans, twins who dream the same dream, mothers who wake moments before their children cry. What if some of those connections, those feelings we call just a hunch, were reflections of something deeper? Not just emotion, but physics. The music of entanglement plays on, a music of mirrored motion, of unity across distance, of a bond untouched by time. And you realize you've heard this song before, in the way moonlight touches the sea, in the rhythm of two hearts breathing in sleep, in the way you can think of someone and feel, somehow, they are thinking of you, perhaps. In a universe built on entanglement, we are all part of the same long dance. Particles, people, stars all bound together by threads we cannot see. But sometimes, quietly, feel. Your breath deepens. Your thoughts slow. And once again, a new question rises not sharply, but like a ripple moving outward. If these particles can remain so perfectly synchronized, so impossibly aligned, what else might be possible? Could we build a world from such connections? Could we harness this silent dance to share information, to communicate, to understand? You feel the edge of a new idea, whisper of something just beyond reach. You don't need the answer now. Just the wondering is enough. And so, With one last glance at the particles still moving as one, you let yourself drift forward toward the next step in the journey. Toward a place where teleportation becomes real not as a story of science fiction, but as a marvel of nature's own design. You carry the silence with you. Not empty silence, but the kind that holds meaning. The kind that connects. Asterisk, asterisk, you drift forward, gently carried by the hush of wonder. The silence from before clings to you not as absence, but as presence, filled with unseen threads of meaning. The entangled particles fade softly behind you, but their memory still hums in your chest. They are no longer in view, yet somehow, you feel them still twined pulses moving in rhythm beyond the veil of space. Now, the path opens again, wider, deeper. You feel yourself entering a space where something profound waits. Not with noise, not with urgency, but with a quiet patience, like the stillness of deep water. There is no rush here, only stillness. Only the calm promise that what you are about to discover will change how you see the very fabric of existence. This is the place where teleportation begins, not as a flash of light, not as a body disappearing or a person splitting into sparks and reappearing elsewhere. This is quieter than that, more delicate, more real. Here, teleportation sheds the costume of science fiction and dresses instead in something far more elegant: information, entanglement, transformation. You pause and feel your breath, the rise and fall, the rhythm of your being. You notice the quiet tempo of your chest, how it moves like a tide, and you begin to see it differently now. Your breath is a pattern, and so is your heartbeat. So is your very being. Teleportation in this realm is not about moving matter, but about moving identity. You are still here. Your atoms are not flying through the air, but something about you, your essence, your quantum state, has the potential to be reborn in another place. Not carried, but recreated. Not transmitted, but reconstructed. This is the gentle miracle of quantum teleportat. It begins, always, with entanglement, two particles that know each other beyond distance. One of them waits with you, the other far away, in a place prepared to receive a message unlike any other. You are not sending yourself across the void. You are allowing the universe to echo your structure elsewhere, to whisper your pattern into a particle that is already waiting to become you. You imagine yourself as a whisper, not your whole body, but a soft code, a delicate fingerprint of how you exist at the smallest level. Not flesh and thought, not emotion and memory, but structure. A framework written in the subtlest ink. Your thoughts do not travel. Your memories do not move. But something deeper, the blueprint of your quantum state, now ready to leap. A pattern so intricate and complete, it can hold the rhythm of who you are without carrying a single atom of your body. But it needs help. Because, even in this strange world, you cannot send information through entanglement alone. You need a bridge. And that bridge is built from something familiar: light. Electric signals, the slow and steady march of classical communication. Entanglement provides the stage, but classical bits still deliver the script. You imagine two people across the ocean, both holding matching puzzle boxes. One has a code, a key, a message, but must send instructions to the other so they can build the same shape. The magic is not in the movement. It's in the instruction. In teleportation, this is what happens. You measure the particle here, intertwined with you, and send the result to someone far away. That result travels by normal means, perhaps a photon through fiber, perhaps an electrical pulse. Only after this final piece arrives can the other, entangled particle be transformed. Can it take on your state? Can it become you? It feels like a strange ritual. A particle is read, collapsed into knowledge. And that knowledge is shipped bit by bit, through light and wire, to another location where it is reassembled into being. But the magic lies not in the journey, but in the agreement between two. Ends, the knowing of one allows the becoming of the other. You haven't moved, but your quantum self now lives somewhere new. You close your eyes and picture it. A particle, far from where you are, suddenly humming with the exact vibration, the precise rhythm that you once held. It isn't imitation. It isn't cloning. It is replacement, and the original, it vanishes. Because in the world of quantum teleportation, a perfect copy cannot exist. To send a state, you must let go of the one you have. You are not doubled. You are transferred. This is not teleportation as the movies show it. No bodies beamed. No instant leaps across stars. But this is deeper, more profound. It means that identity, the structure of being, can move. Not the thing, but the pattern of the thing. You are made of atoms. Yes, but also of how those atoms align, how they spin, how they vibrate in unison to become you. Quantum teleportation is about transferring that exact vibration. It's about taking the whisper of what you are and letting it be rewritten somewhere else. And this transfer is not passive. It is exacting. It requires measurement, communication, and sacrifice. The original quantum state is destroyed in the act of measurement. It must be, because the act of knowing, it alters it. That is the quantum deal. To send, you must lose. To receive, you must trust. You think again of memory, of how sometimes a smell or a sound can pull you back to a place you haven't been in years. Not because your body went there, but because the pattern of that memory lives in you. Teleportation is something like that, a kind of remembering that travels and just as memory needs context, so too does teleportation need a path away to carry the final instructions. Even in this elegant dance, you cannot escape the rules. No information moves faster than light. No signal breaks the fabric of causality. You still must wait for the message to arrive, for the classical piece to complete the quantum puzzle. And so, you realize even teleportation is not about speed. It's about precision. It's about faithfulness. It's about sending something so perfectly, so completely, that when it arrives, the original no longer needs to exist. You lie still, feeling the weight of that. This is not disappearance, not destruction. It is continuity. The way a wave flows from one end of the ocean to another, never carrying water, but carrying motion. You imagine being recreated like that, not your mind, not your memories, but your state. A single note, struck perfectly across a new instrument. And you ask yourself, would that be you? It's a question without a single answer, but in this moment, you don't need one. Just the wondering is enough, because something beautiful has taken root. You now understand teleportation not as fantasy, but as physics. As a dance of entanglement, of information, of quiet, deliberate change. It doesn't defy the laws of nature, it works within them in the deepest way. You think of scientists again, of photons passed through delicate crystals, of atoms cooled to near absolute zero, of labs where pulses of light are sent across fiber, networks, whispering quantum states, from one node to another. It's already happening, quietly, carefully, one step at a time, in some cities. Researchers have teleported photons across rivers. In others, atoms have shared their state with twins kilometers away. These are not experiments in teleporting people, but in something more profound, moving information itself without moving the thing that holds it. And every success brings us closer to quantum communication networks where security is written into the laws of nature, where encryption is not just strong, but unbreakable, where secrets, identities, and perhaps even fragments of consciousness can one day be shared through invisible cords of light. And you feel calm now, rooted, ready to let go of what you thought teleportation must be, so you can embrace what it truly is: a soft transfer, a surrender, a rebirth. You breathe deeply, inhale, exhale, and as your mind drifts gently, you begin to sense something new on the horizon, a thread of thought, still waiting to be followed. If teleportation moves the quantum state of a particle, if information can flow through this delicate process, what exactly is the message being sent? What is this thing we call information? And why does the universe care so deeply about it? You feel it coming now, the next step in your journey. A step not into movement, but into meaning. Because, to understand quantum teleportation fully, you must explore the one thing that truly travels. Not bodies, but the essence that defines them. Information. Asterisk, asterisk. You float now through a quieter layer of knowing. The wonder of teleportation hums behind you, soft and strange, like the memory of music after the last note fades. You feel it still, the silent dance of entanglement, the delicate unfolding of identity from one place to another. But now, something new enters the space around you. A thread, thin, invisible, yet strong enough to carry meaning across the great divide. This is not the quantum sea. This is the thread that anchors it, the bridge that carries the final note from one particle to its twin. The classical thread, in the world you know, communication is old, familiar. It moves in waves and wires, pulses and signals. Messages fly through light, through air, through copper veins buried in the earth. Even now, your voice can reach another across oceans, not by magic, but by electricity and timing. There's a rhythm to it, a pace that never breaks nature's rulebook. And that's the rule the universe keeps 7 in its strangest corners. Quantum teleportation may feel like something out of a dream, but it still bows to the laws of cause and effect. It still needs a message to travel the classical road. It still depends on a signal that moves no faster than light. You breathe slowly. Let this settle in your chest. In teleportation, when one entangled particle is measured, its quantum state is destroyed. But its imprint, the pattern of what it was, is revealed. That pattern is the instruction manual, the recipe, the key. It's everything needed to rebuild that state in another place, but it must be sent. That message, the result of the measurement, must travel the long, ordinary way, across space, through fiber, through pulses of light or electrons, and it cannot arrive instantly. You begin to see the shape of this dance. Entanglement sets the stage, the possibility. Without it, the play is paused. The other particle waits empty, silent, unable to become anything until the message arrives. It's like baking without ingredients. You have the oven, the heat, the timing, But until the instructions show up, there's nothing to make. The classical message is the missing piece that brings teleportation to life. You drift through this idea, letting it wrap around your thoughts like silk. You're no longer just witnessing particles and patterns, you're understanding their limits, their boundaries, their strange obedience to laws that feel both ancient and brand-new. In one corner of your mind, you imagine a scientist sitting in a quiet lab, surrounded by wires and blinking lights. She sends a photon through a crystal, lets it tangle itself into a pair. One stays in her lab. The other is sent away, perhaps to another room, perhaps to another city. She measures the first. The result surprises her, always random, always unknowable until the moment of collapse. That result is her message. She picks up a phone, or types a number, or sends a signal. And in the waiting lab far away, someone else reads it, then transforms their entangled photon into the same state hers once held. The teleportation is complete. Not in an instant, not with a flash, but with precision, with patience, with the quiet march of light obeying time. You feel a strange reverence for this limit, this boundary that refuses to break, even in the wild garden of quantum law. No matter how entangled two particles are, no matter how perfectly they reflect each other, no information can travel between them faster than light. It's a reminder that the universe, for all its strangeness, still believes in order, still honors the threads of time, still protects causality like a fragile flame. You imagine now that this classical thread is more than a rule, that it too has poetry, that it is not just delay, but depth. Because when you wait for something to arrive, you notice it more, you feel its weight, you understand its journey. Without the pause, there is no meaning. Without the thread, the teleportation would feel empty, too fast, too easy. But with it, there's a rhythm, a pulse, a breath, and so you breathe again. And as you do, you picture how this classical thread weaves not just through labs, but through life. You remember writing letters, real letters, on paper, with your hands, how you would send them, then wait for days, weeks, for a reply. Not to lie. The space between sending and receiving was not a flaw. It was the soul of it. The patience made the connection deeper. The time gave meaning. Teleportation, you realize, is no different. You imagine yourself again. This time as information, not your thoughts or your body, but your quantum state. You are about to be teleported. Your twin particle is far away, waiting. You are measured, your delicate structure revealed. And now, the message must go. But that message doesn't fly on magic. It rides on light, on electricity, on everything you've always known about communication. The final step depends on the oldest tools we've ever had. You are split now, not in two, but in two, before and after. Your original self is gone. Your copy is waiting. And between the two stands a thread spinning its way across space. You feel its movement. You feel how important it is. This humble traveler, carrying the last piece of the puzzle. And you understand why it must be slow. Why it must take time. Why teleportation can never be faster than the speed of light. Because speed is not the goal. Accuracy is. Faithfulness is. The message must arrive whole, unbroken, untouched by error. The pattern must remain pure. So the classical thread moves. With care, not haste. And isn't that how all true messages should travel? You think of love now, how it too is not instant. how it grows across days, across distance, how the most powerful connections are not the fastest, but the most faithful, how being known truly known requires time, requires the quiet unfolding of self into the waiting hands of another. You feel this deeply, that teleportation is not a shortcut. It is a devotion, a way of saying, this is exactly what I am, and I trust you to hold it. And the classical thread, it's the whisper between hearts, the promise carried carefully, the signal that says, I am coming. Wait for me. You begin to see now that this thread is everywhere, in every message, in every effort to connect, in every pause between action and understanding. It is the space where meaning forms. You float in this thought, and you realize something else, that teleportation is not one act. It is a duet. Entanglement sings the first note. Classical communication sings the last. And only together do they make the music. You drift now through examples from your memory. Teleportation experiments where information traveled not across galaxies, but across hallways, across rooftops, across fiber optic cables stretched between cities. You remember how? In 2017, Matisse teleported a photon state from Earth to a satellite orbiting over 1,200 kilometers above. They didn't send the particle, Matisse, they sent its soul. They measured one, sent the result through space, and watched as its twin changed. Silently, faithfully, in the sky. It was not faster than light, but it was real. And it was beautiful. You think of that satellite now circling the Earth, quiet and cold, but carrying a piece of quantum history. A node in what may one day become a quantum internet. A network not of machines, but of entanglement and trust. A way for humans to speak in whispers that cannot be overheard. To share meaning in ways never before imagined. You let that possibility settle into your bones. The future may not be about speed. It may be about precision. About sharing less, but sharing more truthfully. About sending not everything, but exactly what matters. And maybe that's what teleportation teaches most of. All that connection isn't about closeness. It's about fidelity. Across any distance, with the right thread, something essential can still arrive unchanged. You lie back, floating again in the rhythm of breath and thought. You no longer fear the slowness of the classical thread. You honor it. Because in its steady steps, it protects the soul of the message. It makes teleportation something deeper than magic. It makes it real. You begin to fade now, soft at the edges, thoughts drifting toward dreams, but something still stirs. A final image. A thread of light, stretching between stars, between particles, between people. And you wonder, every message rides on such a thread. Then what else might? What truths have we yet to send? What quiet instructions wait to be delivered? And in what future lab, or heart, or mind, will they arrive? Your breath is slow. The night is quiet. The thread holds, and somewhere ahead, the next question glows. Because teleportation may send a state. But what is the state made of? What is this thing we call information? Asterisk. You linger at the edge of thought, still wrapped in the soft glow of the message just delivered. The idea of information lingers in your breath, not just as a signal, but as something sacred, something that might shape the very language of the universe. And as you reach toward that mystery, you feel a subtle resistance. Oh, quiet, handheld. Up, not in warning, but in wisdom. Time, it seems, has not let go of you just yet. You are still bound to something slower, something older, something woven into the very threads of reality, the speed of light. You rest in this realization not with disappointment, but with a kind of reverence, 'cause here, even limitation has grace. You remember the dance between particles entangled, moving as one, no matter the space between them. It felt instant. It looked like a secret doorway through time. A temptation to believe that maybe, just maybe, you could send a message faster than light itself. But the universe whispers, no, not because it is cruel, not because it wants to hide its treasures, but because order matters. Because even wonder must move with care. You close your eyes and let yourself drift through that moment of almost believing. That dream of instant communication, of skipping past distance and delay. It's a beautiful dream. But dreams, too, have physics. And in this universe, light sets the pace. Not as a barrier, but as a boundary that protects the flow of cause and effect. You imagine a ripple in a pond. You drop a stone, and the waves spread outward, first near, then far, always moving forward, never skipping steps. This is how light moves rippling through the fabric of space, carrying information, carrying truth. And if something could outrun that ripple, if a signal could leap ahead of light's patient wave, then cause and effect might twist. Time might bend too sharply. Reality itself could fray so the universe holds firm. Even in teleportation, even in the most astonishing displays of entanglement, you cannot send usable information faster than light. Because for information to be received, the classical message must arrive. And that message travels at light speed or slower. You sigh not in frustration, but in quiet understanding. There is peace in this rule. There is protection. There is balance. If you could speak to the stars before your light reached them, if you could answer before a question was asked, then time would lose its rhythm. And rhythm is what makes the universe beautiful. So, instead of breaking the limit, you begin to admire it. You watch the light move, not in haste, but with purpose. It paints the sky with color, sculpts shadows, reveals the edges of everything you see. It doesn't race. It reveals. Even in teleportation, light plays this sacred role. It carries the final piece, the classical information needed to complete the quantum puzzle. Without it, teleportation is a question with no answer, an echo with no source, so you wait with it. You walk with the photon as it crosses space in silence, and you begin to feel the beauty of not arriving too soon. You remember that even entanglement, astonishing bond across space, doesn't transmit data. It only holds potential. A mirror without reflection until the light arrives. And when it does, then the image forms. Then the particle takes shape. Then the state completes itself. You see now how each part relies on the other. Quantum magic and classical patience, instant knowing and steady delivery. This is not contradiction. It is co-creation. The message is sacred, but the path is too. And the path cannot outrun the light that defines it. You lie still now, thoughts slow, body soft. You no longer crave shortcuts. You no longer wish to bend the rules. Instead, you begin to honor them. Because limits can be holy. Because what moves slowly often carries the deepest meaning. And the speed of light, though fast beyond imagining, is still not infinite. It is measured, constant, faithful. It touches everything, and reminds you that the universe prefers clarity over chaos. You remember now, light takes over 8 minutes to travel from the sun to Earth. That means when you feel its warmth, you are touching the past. And yet, it still feels like now. So maybe speed isn't everything. Maybe what matters is that the message arrives at all. You smile. Not every miracle needs to be instant. Some take their time, and teleportation for all its wonder waits too. Waits for the light, waits for the signal, waits for meaning to catch up with potential. It does not cheat time, it respects it. And in doing so, it remains real. You remember again how the classical message is like the final brushstroke on a painting. The canvas of entanglement is already stretched and primed, the outlines faint but present. But until the message arrives, spoken the image remains unfinished. The light doesn't just carry data, it carries conclusion. You imagine an artist creating a portrait with invisible ink. You can feel the outlines, the shape, the potential. But it is only when the last drop of sunlight touches the page that the image blooms into view. That sunlight, that final photon, is the classical message. The one that reveals the truth, and in this truth, there is no urgency, no rush to the finish line. Only completion, precision, arrival. You think of how long humanity has waited for its own light. We stared at stars for centuries before understanding what they were. How we watched the flicker of distant suns long before we knew the word photon or spectrum or speed of light. And yet, we learned, we listened, we waited, and the light came, so you wait. 2. You think about the many places where entanglement might already be pulsing, waiting only for that classical thread to complete the dance. Across satellites, through quantum computers, in labs buried beneath mountains, where silence is deepest. All of them humming with potential. All of them respectful of the limit. All of them whispering, not yet, not until the light arrives. You wonder if this is a lesson the universe teaches over and over again, that waiting is not weakness, that slowness is not failure, that delay does not mean doubt. You feel your body relax even deeper, the warmth in your limbs, the stillness in your thoughts. You think of how even trees grow slowly, how glaciers carve valleys over centuries. Light from the nearest star beyond our sun takes 4 years to arrive, and yet it arrives. Even love takes time. Even understanding. Even peace. So perhaps teleportation, too, must wait. Must pause. Must honor the sacred tempo of the cosmos. Because what travels slowly is often what travels true. You rest your hand on your chest and feel your own rhythm, your own message, your own thread of breath. Inhale, exhale. The body's quiet agreement with the law of light. And now you begin to feel it, not just understand it, but feel it, that the speed of light is not a cage. It is a gatekeeper, a guardian of order, a protector of symmetry. It makes sure that when you arrive, you are expected. That when meaning forms, it is real. You drift gently again into thought. Somewhere, another particle is waiting entangled, ready but still incomplete. It knows something has happened, but it cannot respond until the message comes. Can feel a shift in the wind, a change in someone's heart far away, but you still wait for the letter. The phone call is far, the explanation. Even in love, there is a speed limit, and maybe that's not a flaw. Maybe that's part of the beauty. You drift now, your body warm, your mind gentle. And just before sleep tugs you under, a final thought, reset. The speed of light is the universe's boundary. Then what is it protecting? What is so delicate, so powerful, that even time must move slowly to carry it? You feel the answer shimmer in the distance. It's the very thing that telepays, the very essence that gives particles identity, the quiet thread that holds everything together. It's information, and as you fall into deeper stillness, you begin to wonder, what does that information look like? What is its shape, its weight, its voice? You are ready now to step into that mystery dot, to see not just what information does, but what it is. You step softly now into the space where the question glows not with urgency, but with warmth. It lingers where Chapter 6 left you, curious, calm, ready to face the whisper beneath the science. What is information, really? A T, not just a code, not just a signal, but something that defines a thing, its shape, its spin, its truth. And if information is what teleports, then the next question flickers gently into being. If only your quantum state moves, then who are you? You breathe into that thought, inhale, exhale. The quiet is not empty. It holds something sacred now, a presence behind the puzzle. You are not drifting through facts anymore. You are drifting through yourself. In this space, you feel less like a body and more like a pattern, a vibration, a collection of probabilities and possibilities that somehow beautifully make you. You've always thought of yourself as solid, skin and bones, eyes that see, hands that hold, feet that walk. But tonight, the veil lifts, and you begin to understand that you are not just your matter, you are your arrangement. Your body is atoms, yes, but atoms can be anywhere. Atoms can be replaced. What makes you you is how those atoms talk to each other, how they spin, how they align, how they form memories, thoughts, feelings in a rhythm so precise, so personal, that no other collection of atoms could call itself you. You are an orchestra without a conductor, and yet the music plays on. Each atom is a note, each spin is a harmony. But it is the composition, the invisible structure of meaning that holds it all together. The atoms themselves don't matter as much as the relationships between them. That's what persists. That's what forms the music. That's what forms you. And in the quantum world, that rhythm that states everything. You are not your atoms. You are the information those atoms carry. A fingerprint too fine to be seen. A voice too quiet to be heard, except in the language of probabilities and states. You rest in this realization, and slowly you begin to wonder. If your state can be transferred, can you be copied? Is there a version of you that can be made somewhere else? If only the right entangled particle waits. Would it feel like you? Think like you? Be you? The thought does not frighten you. It feels like peeling back a veil revealing a truth you always suspected, but never had the words to hold. You imagine standing in front of a machine, one that promises to move you not your body, but your essence to another place. The atoms at your destination are ordinary, unshaped. But the machine whispers to them, arranges them in exactly the same way. The spin, the entanglement, the subtle quantum dance that defines you, all of it, recreated. The original you, gone. The new one, standing, blinking, breathing. If that person opened their mouth and spoke, would the voice be yours? Would the thought behind it feel familiar? You drift deeper, not with fear, but with fascination. Not searching for a final answer, just stepping soft. The thought still lingers, soft as moonlight on water, that maybe what you are was never fully yours to begin with. Not a possession, not a boundary, but a pattern woven through something larger. You float in that thought, weightless and calm, as it unfolds like a petal, layer by layer. If you are a pattern, then perhaps there are other patterns that hum in harmony with yours, not by accident, but by origin. Not scattered, not separate, but born together from the same unfolding fabric. You are no longer imagining the self as a sealed container. You are imagining it as a song in a symphony distinct, yes, but deeply tuned to other notes in ways you cannot always hear. And if quantum identity can move, can echo, can be reborn in another place, then maybe it can also be shared. Not like a file copied onto multiple devices, but like the way a flame spreads from candle to candle each, one burning with the same light. The same heat, the same mystery. You drift gently now into the pulse beneath things. Not noise, not silence, something in between. A vibration so fine, so constant, that it doesn't need to be heard to be known. It hums through the spaces between atoms, through the quiet between thoughts, through the pause between one heartbeat and the next. It is information, not the kind you read or write, but the kind you are. The kind that doesn't need a language to exist. The kind that breathes on its own. You are surrounded by it, carried by it, composed of it. Not bits and bytes, not words or wires, but being, pattern, presence. You picture a spiderweb, stretched across the stars, every strand trembling slightly. And you, a point on that web, feeling the echoes of something moving far away, that trembling, that subtle response, is information, not just about others, but about you, in relation to everything else. And this is where entanglement returns not as a trick, not as a riddle, but as a whisper of truth. You remember it now. It's particles, born together, linked by something deeper than space. When one moves, the other knows, instantly. No signal, no travel, only connection. It is not magic. It is not even mystery. It is law, physics, the very structure of the quantum world. And yet, it feels more than that. Feels like something you've always known. That connection is not about control, okay? It doesn't carry commands. It doesn't speak in words, but it responds, okay? Because deep down, they share something more than matter. They share information, a tade. It's the same original state, the same story written in the tiniest possible script. You feel that now. Not in your body, but in your being. The idea that your pattern, your state, might not be a single flame but part of a fire burning across space. Quantum information doesn't live in isolation. It lives in relationship. It is not a point. It is a bridge. It's not stored inside things. It is stored between them, between particles, between questions and answers, between what is known and what is possible. You are beginning to see now information is not something you hold. Did you see? Something you are part of. And if that's true, then teleportation, this strange act of transferring a state, is not about jumping from place to place. It is about shifting the balance of knowing. One place releases it, another receives it, but the knowledge never breaks. The information never disappears. It only flows. You think now of rivers. A drop of water leaves one stream, joins another. But the water was always part of the cycle. It did not vanish. It transformed. It relocated, but it remembered. Information is like that. It doesn't vanish. It reappears, reconfigured, but never lost. Not deleted, just redirected. You wonder if teleportation moves a quantum state from here to there. What else might it move? Not memory, not thought. Those belong to the brain. But perhaps awareness. A kind of quiet knowing that extends beyond the mind. Not intelligence, but resonance. The way a bell hums when a matching tone is struck nearby. You float in this idea. That entanglement is not just a scientific fact, but a metaphor for something deeper. That perhaps your soul, if such a word still fits, is not a solid thing inside you. Not a container, not a vault, but a thread woven into the fabric of reality, stretching quietly through the hearts of others. Maybe this is why you sometimes feel, without knowing why you dream of places you've never been, why you sense someone's presence even before they arrive. Perhaps these are not mysteries. Perhaps they are echoes of your information shimmering across invisible threads, entangled, not by accident, but by origin. You are not just alone in your selfhood. You are part of a shared equation, a field, a lattice, a dance, and this, too, brings you back to Teleportate, because when you understand that information is not confined, not owned, but shared, then teleportation becomes more than movement. It becomes an act of alignment, of tuning the instrument so the note plays true in another part of the cosmos. The melody remains, the sound travels, but it is the harmony that matters. Breathe deeper now. This thought is comforting. What defines you, your rhythm, your quantum signatures, not trapped inside your skin. It lives in how you relate, how you remember, how you love. And in the quantum world, love is not so far from entanglement. Both are connection without distance. Both are awareness without words. Both are presence beyond the physical dot. You begin to see now that entanglement and emotion may not be so separate. That what we call connection in human terms, sympathy, memory, longing may reflect something more fundamental in nature. Something older than language, more precise than thought. You think of twins separated by oceans who feel each other's pain. God. Of birds turning in unison. Of hearts skipping for reasons the mind cannot name. You wonder if these two are echoes, distillations of quantum information dancing across the boundaries we think are real. You are not alone, not truly, not ever. Because even at the smallest scale, particles reach for one another. They remain connected even when torn apart. They remember in ways our minds cannot. And maybe just, maybe so, do we. You let that idea rest inside you, like a stone in a riverbed, not needing to move, just there, just being. Information is not just data. It is shape, it is presence, okay? It is memory written into the fabric of the universe, okay? And teleportations, strange, beautiful. Quiet is one way the universe reminds you that separation is not the same as disconnection. That distance is not the same as absence. And that everything's made of information that longs to return home. You feel the gravity of that word, home, not as a place, but as a state of coherence, as resonance, as belonging. You sigh now, not from sadness, but from awe. Because you are starting to see that teleportation is not about escaping space. It is about understanding space as something more flexible, more responsive, more filled with meaning than you ever imagined. The idea that space is not emptiness, but potential. Not silence, but breath held in readiness. When a state is teleported, nothing travels in the traditional sense, but something profound still happens. There is recognition. A new place sings the same song. The flame is lit again. The thread tightens. The information knows itself anew. And so you wonder what else could be entangled. If particles can be linked, can minds, can intentions, can dreams? What if love itself is a form of non-local coherence, a state that doesn't fade with distance, because it never depended on distance to begin with? What if grief, too, is a kind of entanglement, a way the heart continues to echo across absence? The science is cautious. It speaks carefully in terms of probabilities and experiments. But you, tonight, are allowed to feel beyond that, to let the poetry rise, to follow the whisper of pattern and possibility. You close your eyes, feel the pulse beneath matter, feel the soul of information move like light beneath skin. It hums, quietly, not in one place, but all at once. Here, there, everywhere, the pattern continues. And just as you begin to drift toward sleep, another question stirs. If everything is made of information, what holds the pattern together? What gives it direction? What keeps the entanglement from dissolving into silence? You are ready now to listen for that guiding force, to follow the thread deeper, not just through the body or the mind, but through the code that holds the universe together. You feel the stillness before an experiment begins, the breath held, the silence wrapped around something waiting to be born. Photons, tiny messengers of light, are sent through crystals, entangled, separated, and sent spinning in opposite directions. The lab's equipment glows, reflects, focuses. Lasers hum faintly. Mirrors align with precision. Detectors hold their vigil. This is not magic. It is method. But it feels like prayer. Because in these experiments, humans are not just asking questions. They are listening. They are asking the universe, do you remember? Does the particle on this side still know what happened to the one on the other? Even now, even here, even miles apart. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes, the answer whispers back, yes, you drift beside one of these experiments now. A photon splits its state, shared with a twin. One is measured, the other, far away, responds, not by signal, not by wire, but by something deeper, an echo in the fabric of being. The twin's behavior flips, shifts, mirrors a dance of resonance across distance. You watch scientists measure polarization, spin, angle. They do not look for drama. They look for patterns. Tiny shifts in probability, tiny tilts in truth. They know this is not a show. It is a conversation between the seen and the unseen. You drift between them, feeling their quiet awe. They do not shout their discoveries. They're like someone who has seen a ghost and doesn't want to scare it away. Careful not to break the fragile moment where math touches mystery. You remember now the bell tests, the entanglement loopholes, the ever-refining designs meant to rule out coincidence, to corner nature into confessing. Is the world truly local, or is something deeper at play? You remember the names, Aspect, Clauser, Zeilinger, which generation? Building tighter experiments, sealing windows through which doubt might slip. You imagine cold rooms, ice stations, cryogenic baths, cooling detectors near absolute zero, so subtle that even cosmic rays might spoil the data. Each study builds on the one before it. One scientist's question becomes another's apparatus. One lab's flicker composes the chorus that sings back to humanity. We are not separate from each other, from the place, from the vast field of being. And slowly, one experiment at a time, the old idea begins to fade. No, the world is not just local. No, it is not just cause and effect in neat, straight lines. It is something more. Something that connects without touching, responds without delay, knows without seeing. You breathe into that. This is not just physics. This is poetry written in the language of reality. And the experiments, they are stanzas. Each one a soft step toward understanding. You imagine the labs across the globe, some under mountain peaks, some beneath cities, some floating in silence above the earth in zero-gravity modules. You imagine researchers at midnight adjusting lenses in sub-basements, another group traveling to deserts to shield equipment from cosmic interference, another team aboard an airplane or a satellite orbiting overhead. Everywhere, the pattern continues. And just as you begin to drift toward sleep, another question stirs. If everything is made of information, what holds the pattern together? What gives it direction? What keeps the entanglement from dissolving into silence? You are ready now to listen for that guiding force, to follow the thread deeper, not just through the body or the mind, but through the code that holds the universe together. And tonight, you walk softly into the quiet hum of human curiosity. Not into theory, but into the real rooms where questions become light, and light becomes answers. You enter a lab, but it doesn't feel cold or clinical. It feels like wonder pressed gently into walls and wires. The lights are low, the air hums with anticipation. And in the Centaura table, a beam of light, a pair of particles ready to be split, spun, and seen. This is where science meets the sacred, where minds and hands try to touch the untouchable, each endeavor a pilgrimage of curiosity. In some, a single researcher lies awake, eyes glowing with screen light, tracking a single photon's behavior at odd hours, chasing a flicker in probability. In others, an international team deliberates over which loophole to close next, what margin of error to push back. In each one, someone waits for a number, a flicker, a change, not for fame, not for speed, but for a whisper from the universe, a confirmation that we are not separate. That distance is not disconnection. That meaning flows through silence. You smile now, because these scientists, for all their equations and lasers, are just like you. They seek deeper. They reach beyond what's visible. They yearn to understand what lies beneath the surface. They want to feel the code. They want to touch that guiding structure in the dark. And sometimes, just for a moment, they do. You sit now beside a researcher in a quiet lab coat, illuminated by the glow of digital readouts, cables, and blinking LEDs. Their hands shift slowly, adjusting a lens, tightening a screw, recalibrating the detector. They breathe slowly, methodically with the rhythm of the apparatus, steadying their pulse to pulse with the photon clock. They measure the angle, they log the reading, they repeat. The experiment is subtle, delicate, demanding patience measured in months, not hours. Its signal's delicate, but in its subtlety, it speaks volumes about hidden harmony, hidden structure, hidden unity. And the message, beneath all the math, beneath all the graphs, beneath the careful layers of shielding and isolation, is simple. We are connected. Not just biologically, not just emotionally, but fundamentally, structurally, quantum lie, your entanglement is not metaphor. It is measured, repeated, verified, again and again. The results return, particles that know each other, even when no message is sent. One photon's polarization is observed here, and with no wire, no signal traveling between. Its twin mirrors back the behavior over kilometers, over fiber cables, over satellite relays, signal-free. You feel the weight of that settle gently on your chest, not as pressure, but as presence of something vast. Because this isn't just about particles bouncing off detectors. It's about potential. The potential that the very fabric of reality is stitched with relationship, with response. And perhaps, just perhaps, with intention, a hint that patterns are held. Revered, passed along by a quiet intelligence woven into existence. You close your eyes. You are no longer in the lab. You are floating above it. Above the mountains, above the clouds. You see the earth below, quiet, turning in anonymity. But dotted across its surface glowing sparks of curiosity. Labs sleeping under neon lights. Telescopes turning toward distant galaxies. Underground caverns alive with detectors listening for whispers beyond the stars. People measuring light, wondering about time. Studying spin as if the universe is a letter they are learning to read. And perhaps it is. Perhaps every photon is a word. Every measurement, a punctuation mark. Every experiment, a verse. And every laba stanza in the great cosmic poem of existence, this epic unfolding. One line at a time, across centuries, across generations, across cultures. Across hopes, you drift back now into your own breath. Soft, steady. You are not in a lab, but you are part of the same search. You wonder, as they wonder, what guides the pattern, what gives shape to the code. What silent intelligence might hide in the way the universe remembers itself, like an echo traveling down a vast hallway, or the resonance between two tuning forks in field, vibrating together even when apart. You imagine hidden symmetry, mathematicians, glimpse rotations, groups, invariants dancing behind equations. You imagine the dance of fields, the harmonies of nuclear forces, the unity of fundamental interactions. You imagine that, behind the equations, there might be something grander narrative still unfolding, written in quanta instead of ink. In resonance, rather than letters, you recall experiments not yet done, hypotheticals, proposals, speculative, setups, satellites exchanging entangled photons across continents and seas. Quantum key distribution networks designed to secure communication against all eavesdropping. Experiments combining quantum sensors with gravitational wave detectors listening. 4 entangled echoes from black holes merging. Even dreams of tabletop quantum gravity tests where entangled masses might reveal whether gravity itself can entangle. These ideas hover at the edge of feasible, riding the friction between what we can build and what we can imagine. You sense both humility and audacity in them, as scientists whisper to the cosmos. We remember. We remember the questions. We remember the longing to know. And just as your body begins to relax into sleep's gentle pull, another thought rises: if we can test entanglement. If we can measure teleportation, if we can ask questions and hear answers, then what else might be speaking that we haven't yet learned to listen to? You are not in a lab, but you are part of the same search. You wonder, as they wonder, what guides the pattern, what gives shape to the code, what silent intelligence might hide in the way the universe remembers itself. And just as your body begins to relax into sleep's gentle pull, another thought. Resift, we can test entanglement. If we can measure teleportation, if we can ask questions and hear answers, then what else might be speaking that we haven't yet learned to listen to? You drift gently now into a world not yet built, a world dreamed in circuits and possibility. You do not walk. You float, and around you are threads of light, cables, not wires, but pulses delicate and fast stretching across the globe like spider silk woven in starlight. They hum with potential, not in a language you recognize, but in a rhythm your breath begins to match. This is no ordinary internet. This is no simple cloud. This is a quantum network. And in it, messages don't travel like words down a wire. They don't even travel, really. They appear instantly in two places at once, through the strange, quiet power of entanglement. You don't hear clicking keys or buzzing phones, okay? You hear something softer, like waves tuning into each other, like breath sinking across continents. No servers, no towers, no lines of delay or congestion. Only states shifting. Only information becoming present in more than one place. You move without resistance through this dream, this shimmering blueprint of a possible future, and you begin to wonder, what if your thoughts could move like that? Not your secrets, not your memories, but your intentions, your empathy, your understanding. Sent not through speech or screen, but through shared states, entangled hearts. Shared presence without sound. Could a world like that be gentler? Could miscommunication fade, not because we've gotten better at explaining, but because we've become better at listening in silence? Could misunderstanding dissolve before it begins, because presence arrived before the words did? Do you see? A child now curled in bed on the other side of the world, scared, lonely, 1,000 miles from help. But across this quantum web, a signal arrives. Not a phone call, not a sound, but comfort, a pulse of being. A pattern that says, you are not alone. As if someone is there, holding them in thought, wrapped in presence, carried by an entangled thread. This is not fantasy. This is not fiction. It is physics waiting to be built. It is mathematics slowly rising into architecture. Already, scientists are stitching the first strand, sending quantum states from one node to another. Through fiber, through air, through space. Each one a whisper of what could be. A photon leaves Vienna and appears in China, entangled still. Still humming with the same memory, the same spin, the same secret song. A whisper of tomorrow, floating between continents. And you float above it all, watching the birth of something ancient and new. A network that doesn't just transmit. It remembers. It preserves. It protects the integrity of what is sent. Because quantum information cannot be copied, cannot be intercepted without being changed. It is delicate, yet inviolable. So, in this world, secrets are safe. Truth stays whole. You picture two doctors on opposite ends of the world, consulting in silence. Not through video, not through files, but through entangled systems sharing quantum states of thought. A medical decision carried instantly from mind to mind. You picture lovers, separated by oceans, still connected, not just by memory, but by a thread of quantum light that hums when one feels the other stir. You picture artists collaborating across countries, not sending drafts, but co-creating through shared neural patterns, translated into states and encoded into light. The music writes itself in 2 rooms at once. The painting flows from 4 hands that have never touched. The idea becomes real, not through translation, but through presence. This is not the end of distance, but it is the softening of it. A way for presence to stretch beyond bodies. A way for minds to meet without needing words. You pause in this dream. Not everything is built yet. The network is still a whisper. There are problems to solve, errors to reduce, states to stabilize, decoherence to resist. There are engineering feats yet to be mastered, cities yet to be linked. But the foundation is here. The math, the machines, the minds that believe, and more than that, the desire. A longing to be closer without intrusion, to communicate without distortion, to feel without fear. You let that desire rest inside you, now warm and bright. 'Cause even if you never send a quantum message, even if you never build a node or touch a photon, you are already part of the network. With every quiet thought sent toward someone you love, with every breath taken in unspoken understanding, you are practicing entangled living. You are shaping a future where peace doesn't travel by politics or speech, but by resonance. A future where compassion is no longer limited by language. A future where truth is shared like a chord, not a sentence. You float now through cityscapes and forests, villages and deserts, all wrapped in the same quiet potential. One planet, one shared quantum web, waiting to be woven tighter. And as you drift, you begin to see how these threads could stretch beyond Earth. Satellites orbit silently above, reflecting moonlight and intention. Space agencies whisper to one another across vacuum, photons entangled across the curve of space-time. A Martian research base and a lunar station hum in synchrony, not because of radio, but because of pattern. You imagine future missions not relying on delay-ridden transmissions, but on instant resonance. A call to home, not answered in minutes, but felt in moments. Entanglement is not limited by distance. It is limited only by our ability to harness it. And that ability grows, one experiment at a time. You remember the quantum repeaters being developed, like little memory keepers, designed to catch fragile photons and send them forward again. They are the caretakers of the network, the whisper keepers. Do you think of the quantum satellites, missions, above China, already proving that light can be shared across continents? And soon, more will follow, building the scaffolding of a world that remembers how to listen, quietly, from far away. This dream is not naive. It will take time. It will take patience, and it will take care. But it is possible. It is being built. And you are part of that building. With your hope, with your questions, with your deep longing for presence. You drift now toward a quieter corner of this imagined future. A field, a garden, a space with no wires, no towers. And yet connection, a quiet shimmer in the air. Someone sitting alone, yet feeling accompanied. A teacher sending calm across the network. A friend offering peace without words. Here, technology fades into background. Here, science becomes service. The machines become silent, and the message remains. And the message is simple. I am here with you. That is the dream of a quantum network. Not just speed, not just security, but sincerity. A way for presence to reach across the spaces where language fails. A way for kindness to ripple through the code. And just as your eyes begin to grow heavy, another thought flickers softly. If we can connect quantum states, if we can share information without motion, what happens when we try to link consciousness? Not data, not memory, but attention itself. You're not trying to answer now. You're just floating with the wonder of it. Could we learn not just to build networks of light, but of awareness? Networks of care, of focus, of shared dreaming. You breathe in slowly. A message doesn't have to be loud to be heard. It doesn't have to travel fast to arrive on time. Sometimes it only needs to be true. And maybe in the next chapter of this quantum journey, you'll begin to sense what kind of truth can move without moving. What kind of awareness can appear like light to places at once. If we can connect quantum states, if we can share information without motion, what happens when we try to link consciousness? Not data, not memory, but attention itself. You're not trying to answer now. You're just floating with the wonder of it. Could we learn not just to build networks of light, but of awareness? Networks of care, of focus, of shared dreaming. You breathe in slowly. A message doesn't have to be loud to be heard. It doesn't have to travel fast to arrive on time. Sometimes it only needs to be true. And maybe in the next chapter of this quantum journey, you'll begin to sense what kind of truth can move without moving. What kind of awareness can appear like light to places at once. But first, you step back from dreams, back from hope, back to the quiet edge where all truth begins. Uncertainty. Because even in quantum mechanics, perhaps especially, in quantum mechanics no path is perfect. And tonight, you enter the shadows. Not to fear them, but to rest within them. To understand that mystery is not a flawless part of the design. You float now through a quieter room, not a lab of lasers or glowing screens, but a space of questions stacked like old journals on wooden shelves. Here, scientists whisper too, but their voices are softer, more uncertain as they speak of limits. You sit among them, and you listen. They speak of loopholes, tiny cracks in the elegant experiments where doubt can still creep in. Maybe a detector missed a photon. Maybe two events weren't truly independent. Maybe the randomness wasn't pure enough. They don't say this with frustration. They say it with love. Because in science, limits are not walls. They are windows, places you lean against to look beyond. You think now of Bell's theorem, beautiful idea, tested again and again, proving that local realism is the comfortable view of a neat clockwork universe can't hold, and yet each test has its own crack. A shadow where doubt remains. Until 2015. That year, a group of patient scientists sealed nearly all the loopholes. Entangled particles, measured far apart, with random settings chosen fast and fair, and still the results held. Stronger than chance, clearer than noise. The entanglement was real, non-locality, undeniable. Remained. Is the universe truly beyond classical rules? Or are we just missing a deeper explanation? You breathe into that question, not to solve it, but to befriend it. Because wonder grows where certainty ends. And the quantum world seems built from such wonder. It doesn't offer hard walls, it offers clouds. Clouds of probability, of possibility. Things aren't here or there. There may be. They're almost. There, if observed, you smile. Because in this strangeness, there is beauty. In a world where particles can be entangled, can respond to one another faster than light, we also accept that those responses can't be used to send a message. The universe knows, but it won't let us cheat. It won't let us break causality, won't let us undo time. Even as it shows us the impossible, it holds us gently within limits. And those limits aren't punishments. They're poetry. Like the way a sonnet holds its writer. Like the way a musical scale gives shape to song. You drift into this understanding that limits can be forms of grace. You think of another limit, now the no-cloning theorem. In the quantum world, information is sacred. It can't be copied. Not exactly, not fully. If you try to clone a quantum state, you disturb it, you change it. You break the symmetry that makes it true. And so, teleportation becomes precious because it's not duplication. It's transference. Something must be given up for something else to be gained. There is no shortcut, no easy path. Only balance, only care, only light that disappears in one place as it reappears in another. You think again about the network, the dream from before. But now, you see its challenges too. Quantum communication is fragile. Photons can be lost. States can be corrupted. Entanglement can be broken by noise, by distance, by time. We build not a superhighway, but a garden. One that must be tended with patience and precision. Even with quantum repeaters, even with entanglement, swapping, we are not yet ready to build a web that holds the whole world. But that doesn't stop the dream. It deepens it. Because it reminds us that even light can fail. Even theories can break. Even the smallest particle carries with it the weight of uncertainty. Hey, you think of all the scientists. Still working quietly tonight, testing loopholes, building better crystals, refining measurements, chasing coherence. They are not trying to erase mystery. They are trying to understand it. And you, in this moment, are doing the same. You're not solving the quantum world. You're living beside it, sleeping beneath it, trusting its strangeness to hold you. You exhale slowly. The shadows are soft here, not empty. Just quiet. And in that quiet, you discover something unexpected. Peace. Not from knowing, but from not needing to know. Not from certainty, but from the deep human comfort that even the most brilliant minds still walk forward in wonder. You curl now into this peace. Your thoughts slower, your breath softer. And as you drift into the edge of sleep, another thought lingers. If limits give us shape, what gives us purpose if we can't clone a quantum state? Can we still share its essence? Perhaps. The stillness ahead, you'll begin to sense what kind of legacy light leaves behind when it disappears. Asterisk, asterisk, not from knowing, but from not needing to know. Not from certainty, but from the deep human comfort that even the most brilliant minds still walk forward in wonder. You curl now into this peace, your thoughts slower, your breath softer. And as you drift into the edge of sleep, another thought lingers. If limits give us shape, what gives us purpose? If we can't clone a quantum state, can we still share its essence? And perhaps, in the stillness ahead, you'll begin to sense what kind of legacy light leaves behind when it disappears. You inhale slowly and feel something gentle and ancient move inside your chest. It is not emotion. It is not thought. It is recognition. Because somewhere along this journey through atoms, entanglement, and light, you have come full circle. Back to yourself. Back to the universe. Not out there, but in here. Inside. In the space behind your eyes. In the rhythm of your breath. In the quiet geometry of your cells. You are not just observing quantum physics. You are made of it. Your body, this tender vessel wrapped in warmth, a network of probabilities, a miracle of coherence. Each atom in you was forged in a star before the earth had oceans. Each quark, each spinning electron, still dances to laws that baffle even the sharpest minds. But those laws don't live in books or blackboards. They live in you, in your blood, in your skin, in your bones, and most of all in your awareness. You carry entanglement not as an idea, but as inheritance. Right now, somewhere in the galaxy, there may still be particles that were once linked to the ones inside you. Their state changed. Yours responded, and neither of you noticed. But the connection was real. It still is. Because entanglement doesn't care about time zones or locations. It cares about origin. And you were never born alone. You came from stars, from collisions, from the slow unfolding of a universe learning to know itself. And now, with every heartbeat, you echo that memory. You are a whisper from the beginning of everything. You are proof that distance doesn't mean disconnection, that silence doesn't mean absence. You curl deeper now, feeling warmth spread through your chest, as if the cosmos has exhaled and left you resting in its breath. You are beginning to realize something: quantum teleportation, with all its complexity and wonder, is not about moving things. It is about preserving meaning. It's about letting go in one place so that the truth can appear somewhere else, changed, unbroken. You've done that too, in your life. With memories, with love, with hope. You've left parts of yourself and people you care about, and felt them reappear years later, unexpectedly, in the smallest gestures. In the sound of laughter, in the quiet of shared space. In the ache of absence that somehow still feels full. Isn't that a kind of teleportation? Isn't that the essence of being? Not to stay whole and held, but to give, to change, to appear again in new forms. You imagine now the universe looking inward, curious about its own nature, and in doing so, it gives rise to you. Your ability to wonder, to feel awe, to search. You are not separate from the strange dance of particles. You are its music. Each time you marvel, each time you ask why, each time you close your eyes and imagine something greater, the universe is dreaming through you. You breathe that in now, not as a theory, but as truth. You are not just a body. You are a process, a song in motion, a poem written in particles and carried by time. Your consciousness, this soft light that flickers behind your thoughts, is the result of quantum histories entangled just right. And yet, it feels so gentle, so human. You are both, the mystery and the one who whispers to it. And in this final moment, as your body settles, as your mind folds softly inward, you realize something else. There is no need to teleport, because you've never truly been apart. The atoms in your skin have touched supernovas. The photons in your eyes were born billions of years ago. The rhythm of your breath is aligned with the rotation of Earth, the orbit of the moon, the swelling of oceans. And every question you've asked about entanglement, about identity, about the speed of thought was already present in the structure of your being. You sleep now, not to escape the world, but to return to it, to rejoin the deep hum of everything that came before you and everything that will remain after. You close your eyes. Your muscles release. Your thoughts loosen. And like a quantum state collapsing into peace, you surrender, not in defeat, but in unity. In the truth that you are already everywhere you need to be. Tonight, you teleport into rest, into stillness, into the soft glow of knowing that the universe is not something outside you. It is something you carry, quietly, completely, within. And somewhere on the edge of waking and wonder, your final thought drifts outward. If the universe is within you, what else might awaken when you dream? And so,